The day Marcus Webb walked into our galactic security headquarters with nothing but a TI-83 graphing calculator from Earth's prehistoric educational era, I knew my entire species had underestimated humanity. Again. My name is Vrel 9, Senior Analyst for the Kytheran Collective, and I have spent 300 cycles studying what these bizarre primates call technology. We had enslaved 47 solar systems with our quantum AI networks. We had processors that could simulate entire universes in microseconds. We had computing power that bent the fabric of spacetime itself. And this absolute maniac defeated us with a device that ran on AAA batteries. Let me back up, because you need to understand just how monumentally we screwed this up. 6 months before Marcus became the most wanted organism in the galaxy, the Kytheran High Command made what they considered a foolproof decision. We would integrate Earth into our network. Not through military conquest, mind you. No, we were far too sophisticated for something so pedestrian. We would simply infiltrate their digital infrastructure, slowly merge their primitive computers with our quantum systems, and by the time they realized what was happening, every toaster on Earth would be answering to our central mind. Elegant, right? Subtle. Efficient. Commander Tyvox Prime led the operation. Big mistake. Huge. Tyvox was brilliant, no question about it. 4,000 IQ by Kytheran standards. The guy could calculate pi to the billionth digit while simultaneously composing symphonies in 17 dimensions. But he had one fatal flaw. He was arrogant. These humans, he said during the initial briefing, his crystalline form pulsing with what I can only describe as smug satisfaction, they still use binary code. Binary. It's like watching cavemen discover fire. This will take 3 solar days, maximum. I should have known right then. Anytime someone in charge says a mission will be easy, start writing your resignation letter. The infiltration began on a Tuesday. Earth time. We had selected their financial sector as the entry point because apparently humans worship something called money with religious fervor, which made it an excellent psychological pressure point. Our quantum tendrils slipped through their firewalls like water through a sieve. Within hours, we had access to every major bank, stock exchange, and cryptocurrency platform on the planet. Phase 1 complete, Tyvox announced, practically glowing with self-satisfaction. Their economy is now an extension of our neural network. Tomorrow, we take their power grids. By Friday, Earth belongs to the collective. That's when Marcus Webb showed up. According to our intelligence files, which I accessed approximately 400 times trying to understand what happened, Marcus was a 28-year-old systems administrator from someplace called Detroit. Mid-level employee at a regional bank. Lived alone. Owned 3 cats. Played something called retro video games in his spare time. Nothing about his profile suggested he was anything other than statistically average. Our analysts later determined that this was precisely what made him dangerous. See, while we were busy congratulating ourselves on outsmarting humanity's top cybersecurity experts and their quantum computers and their AI defense systems, Marcus was sitting in his apartment eating cold pizza and noticing something weird. His bank's website was loading 0.03 seconds faster than usual. 0.03 seconds. Any rational being would have ignored this. But Marcus, bless his paranoid little human heart, decided this was suspicious. Not because he understood what was happening. Oh no. He just thought it was weird and probably a bug and figured he should poke around because he was bored. I am not making this up. His actual reasoning, according to intercepted messages, was that he had nothing better to do that evening because his favorite show wasn't airing a new episode. So Marcus started investigating. And this is where everything went sideways at the speed of light. Instead of using modern tools, modern techniques, or literally anything that would have been detectable by our quantum monitoring systems, Marcus pulled out his old calculator. The same one he had used in high school mathematics classes. And he started doing something that nearly broke my brain when I first learned about it. He started calculating manually. Now, you have to understand the Kytheran Collective's greatest weakness. Our entire empire, all our technology, every system we had built over 10,000 years, was based on one fundamental assumption. That any sufficiently advanced intelligence would use quantum computing. That anyone attempting to interface with our networks would do so through compatible technology. That the universe itself would follow logical, predictable patterns. Marcus Webb did not care about our assumptions. He pulled up his bank's source code, opened a text file, and started typing out equations on his calculator. Basic ones. Pathetically basic. Addition, subtraction, some light calculus that would make a Kytheran infant yawn. And because he was doing everything locally, on hardware that predated quantum encryption by several human generations, our systems had absolutely no idea he was there. It was the equivalent of guarding a fortress with the most sophisticated sensors in existence, only to have someone sneak in through the front door because you forgot to account for someone literally just walking. "Sir," I said to Tyvox on the second day of the operation, "we have an anomaly." He barely looked up from the holographic display showing our expanding control over Earth's infrastructure. Define anomaly. Someone in Detroit is analyzing our code. Manually. With pre-quantum hardware. Irrelevant, Tyvox replied, waving one appendage dismissively. One human with primitive tools cannot possibly comprehend our architecture. Let alone interfere with it. Famous last words. I should have recorded them for posterity. Marcus spent 8 hours that night mapping our network structure. Not through hacking, not through complex algorithms, but by literally drawing it out on graph paper. With a pencil. He created flow charts. He made notes in the margins. He used a ruler to keep his lines straight. And somewhere around 2 in the morning, drinking what I'm told was his 5th cup of coffee, Marcus figured out what we were doing. More importantly, he figured out how we were doing it. Holy hell, he typed into a message to his friend Danny, "I think aliens are trying to take over the banking system." Danny responded with, "LOL, you need to sleep." Marcus did not sleep. Marcus decided to run an experiment. Here is what he did, and I still feel physical pain recounting this. He took his calculator, programmed a simple recursive loop into it, something a human child could write, and then embedded the output into a single line of code in his bank's customer database. Just one line. 47 characters. A mathematical expression that, by itself, was completely harmless. Except our quantum AI interpreted it as a command. Not because the code was sophisticated. Not because it exploited some hidden vulnerability. But because our system encountered something so absurdly primitive, so utterly beneath its operational parameters, that it tried to process the command at a quantum level. Imagine explaining Shakespeare to a supercomputer that only speaks binary. Now imagine that supercomputer trying to understand Shakespeare's intentions, his cultural context, his historical significance, all while simultaneously translating every word into quantum states. The processor would crash trying to reconcile the complexity of the input with the simplicity of the request. That's exactly what happened to our central mind. One line of calculator code. 47 characters. And suddenly, 17,000 quantum processors across the Kytheran network were locked in a recursive feedback loop trying to make sense of mathematical operations they were simultaneously too advanced and too literal to comprehend. Tyvox's smug expression evaporated when every display in headquarters turned red. "What," he said slowly, "is happening?" "The central mind is experiencing cascade failure," I reported, my voice somehow remaining calm despite the fact that I was watching our entire invasion collapse in real time. "Source appears to be Earth. Detroit. One human. Using a calculator. That's impossible." "Yes, sir. Completely impossible. It's happening anyway." Marcus, meanwhile, was having the time of his life. He had just discovered that his little experiment had done something, although he wasn't entirely sure what. So naturally, being human, he decided to do it again. Bigger this time. He pulled up a programming forum, posted his code snippet with the caption, "Found this weird workaround for legacy banking systems, anyone know why it works so fast?" and then went to feed his cats. 17 minutes later, 43 human programmers had copied his code and implemented it in their own systems. Our quantum network went from cascade failure to complete meltdown. Shut it down. Tyvox was screaming now, all pretense of superiority gone. Sever all connections to Earth immediately. "We can't, sir," one of the technicians shouted back. "The system is trying to process their commands, but it keeps interpreting them as both instructions and errors simultaneously. It's caught in quantum superposition." I watched the tactical display as our control over Earth's infrastructure flickered, failed, and then spectacularly exploded in a shower of error messages. Bank accounts were reverting to their original states. Power grids were kicking our quantum processors out like bouncers ejecting drunk patrons. Even the toasters were rejecting our commands. And Marcus? Marcus was posting a follow-up message. "Update, this code definitely does something to the servers. They're acting super weird now. Almost like they're overloading. Anyone else seeing this?" The human programmer community, bless their chaotic hearts, responded with enthusiasm. "Trying it now. This is hilarious, it's making my bank's app glitch in the funniest ways. Posted this to GitHub, let's see what happens." Tyvox collapsed into his command chair. His luminescent form had gone dull, the Kytheran equivalent of a human turning pale. One human. With a calculator. Has defeated the Kytheran Collective. "Technically, sir," I offered helpfully, "it's now 43 humans. And the number is growing exponentially." He made a sound I had never heard before. Something between a groan and a whimper. "Recall all forces," he said finally. "Abandon the operation. And someone find out who this Marcus Webb is and what it would take to hire him." I pulled up his file again. "Sir, according to social media, he's currently celebrating by ordering pizza and playing something called Street Fighter 2. He appears to have no idea he just saved his entire planet." "Of course he doesn't," Tyvox muttered. "Why would he? These humans don't operate on logic. They operate on chaos and caffeine and apparently spite." The evacuation took 6 hours. 6 humiliating hours of watching our supposedly invincible quantum systems get kicked out of Earth's networks by humans using tools we considered museum pieces. Every time we tried to establish a new connection, someone somewhere would implement Marcus's code, and we'd get bounced right back out. By the time the sun rose over Detroit the next morning, the Kytheran Collective's grand invasion had been reduced to a footnote in our military history. Filed under Catastrophic Failures, the Earth Incident. Marcus woke up around noon, checked his forum post, and saw that it had gone viral in the programming community. "Cool," he typed. "Guess I accidentally found a bug or something. Neat. Neat." The human called it neat. Commander Tyvox Prime was demoted. The entire Quantum Operations Division underwent restructuring. And I got assigned to a new task force dedicated entirely to studying human unpredictability. But Marcus? Marcus went back to work on Monday, fed his cats, played his video games, and never knew he had single-handedly defeated an alien empire. At least, that's what we thought. 3 weeks after what the Kytheran High Council now referred to as the calculator catastrophe, I received a message that made my neural pathways freeze in terror. Marcus Webb had sent us an email. Not to the Kytheran Collective specifically. No, that would have been too straightforward. He had sent it to whoever's running the weird quantum servers that keep trying to ping my bank. He had found our encrypted communication relay. With Google. And a packet sniffer he downloaded for free. The subject line read, "Hey, we should probably talk about the thing you guys are doing." Tyvox, who had been demoted to assistant analyst 3rd class, looked at me with an expression of pure dread. "Please tell me this is a joke." "I wish I could, sir. But it gets worse." "How could it possibly get worse?" I opened the email. Marcus had attached a file. A PowerPoint presentation. Titled, Why Your Invasion Plan Was Bad and You Should Feel Bad, a Constructive Critique. He made a presentation, I said flatly. With bullet points. And memes. Tyvox made that whimpering sound again. I opened the file. Slide 1 had a picture of a cat with the caption, You have cat to be kitten me right meow. Slide 2 began the actual presentation. And by the 4th slide, I realized something absolutely horrifying. Marcus understood exactly what we had done. And he understood it better than we did. As you can see in this diagram, the slide read, accompanied by a hand-drawn chart that somehow perfectly illustrated our quantum network topology, your main problem was assuming everyone would use compatible technology. This is what we call in the cybersecurity world a really dumb assumption. See slide 7 for details on why you should never assume anything, especially when dealing with humans who still own fax machines. Slide 7 had another cat meme. Below it, Marcus had written a technical breakdown of our quantum encryption protocols that was so accurate, so precise, that 3 of our senior cryptographers later admitted they learned new things about their own systems from reading it. How? Tyvox whispered, how does he know all this? He explained it in slide 12, sir. Apparently after his code went viral, he got curious and spent the last 3 weeks reverse engineering our entire network. Using free software. And that same calculator. Why? According to slide 15, and I quote, because it seemed interesting and I had vacation days to burn. The presentation continued for 63 slides. Marcus had not only mapped our entire infrastructure but had identified 17 critical vulnerabilities we didn't know existed. He had documented our command hierarchy. He had figured out which solar systems we controlled. He had even determined approximately where our homeworld was located based on signal delay times. And then, on slide 64, he made an offer. Look, the text read, I don't know what you were planning to do with Earth, but I'm guessing it wasn't asking nicely. Here's the deal. You leave us alone, stop trying to hack our stuff, and I won't share everything I learned with every government and hacker group on the planet. Also, I have some suggestions for improving your security because honestly, it's kind of embarrassing how easy this was. No offense. Slide 65 had his email address and a note that said, I'm usually available after 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I work till 5:30. The Kytheran High Council held an emergency session that lasted 14 hours. Half of them wanted to glass Earth from orbit out of sheer embarrassment. The other half pointed out that Marcus had proven humans were far more dangerous than we had calculated, and glassing Earth might have unforeseen consequences. Like the humans surviving somehow and coming after us with calculators. In the end, cooler heads prevailed. Mostly because I pointed out that Marcus had already shared his findings with at least 6 human friends, based on intercepted messages, which meant killing him would be pointless. We sent a reply. Very formal. Very diplomatic. Essentially agreeing to his terms while trying desperately not to sound like we were surrendering to someone who worked at a regional bank. Marcus responded within 20 minutes. Cool. So, about those security improvements. You guys free for a video call tomorrow? Also, I'm gonna need proof you're actually aliens because my friend Danny thinks I'm having a mental breakdown and honestly that's a fair assumption given the circumstances. That's how I ended up on a Zoom call with Marcus Webb at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on a Thursday evening. He was eating leftover Chinese food. One of his cats walked across his keyboard twice during the conversation. Behind him, I could see a poster for something called Back to the Future, and a shelf full of old video game cartridges. This was the human who had defeated the Kytheran Collective. Okay, Marcus said, pointing at the screen with a fork, first of all, you guys are actually real. That's wild. Second, your quantum encryption is genuinely impressive, but you're using it wrong. Like, really wrong. For the next 2 hours, Marcus Webb gave the Kytheran Collective a lecture on cybersecurity. He used analogies involving video game mechanics. He referenced movies we had never heard of. He drew diagrams on actual paper and held them up to his webcam. And every single point he made was absolutely correct. See, your problem, he explained, gesturing with what appeared to be a spring roll, is that you built this entire system assuming everyone would be as advanced as you. But security isn't about being advanced. It's about being paranoid. You need to plan for the dumbest possible attack vector, because that's exactly what someone's gonna use. But we anticipated all logical threats, I protested. Yeah, that's your problem right there. Logic. Marcus grinned. Humans aren't logical. We're creative. We're stubborn. And we're really, really good at breaking things in ways nobody expected. You know what the most common password on Earth is? 123456. You know why? Because humans are lazy and chaos loves company. That's insane. Yep. Welcome to Earth. We invented nuclear weapons before we invented proper luggage wheels. Our entire species is a beautiful disaster. Tyvox, who was sitting beside me and technically wasn't supposed to be involved anymore but nobody had the heart to kick him out, leaned forward. So what do you propose we do? Marcus took a bite of rice, chewed thoughtfully, and then said something that changed everything. Hire me. The silence stretched for approximately 7 seconds. Excuse me? I managed. Hire me, Marcus repeated. Look, you guys clearly need help with your security. I just proved I can break it with a calculator in spite. Imagine what I could do if you actually paid me and gave me proper tools. Plus, I'm kinda bored at my current job. The benefits better be good though. I have student loans. You want us to hire you, Tyvox said slowly, to protect our systems. From humans. Like yourself. Exactly. Who better to defend against human unpredictability than an actual human? I know how we think. I know the stupid stuff we try. Last year someone hacked a casino using a modified Game Boy. A Game Boy. You need someone on your team who understands that level of chaotic energy. I looked at Tyvox. Tyvox looked at me. We both looked back at Marcus, who was now scratching one of his cats behind the ears while waiting for our response. The High Council would never approve this, I said. The High Council didn't approve getting owned by a TI-83 either, Marcus pointed out. But here we are. He had a point. 3 days later, after the most heated debate in Kytheran history, Marcus Webb became the first human employed by an alien empire. His official title was security consultant. His unofficial title was, that human who broke everything and now we're terrified of what he'll do if we don't keep him happy. His starting salary was enough to pay off his student loans, buy a house, and ensure his cats lived like royalty. The first thing Marcus did in his new position was conduct a comprehensive security audit of our entire network. He found 462 vulnerabilities. One of them involved a potential exploit using a Nokia brick phone from Earth's year 2003. How is that even possible? One of our head engineers demanded. Because you guys didn't account for devices that are functionally indestructible and run on spite, Marcus explained cheerfully. Those things survived washing machines, falls from buildings, and nuclear testing. You think your quantum encryption is gonna stop them? The second thing Marcus did was institute what he called the Chaos Protocol. Every month, our security team had to defend against an attack designed by Marcus using deliberately outdated, illogical, or absurd methods. Last month, he compromised our communications array using a digital watch and a Wikipedia article about prime numbers. Nobody sleeps well anymore. But our systems are now the most secure in the galaxy. The third thing Marcus did, which nobody saw coming, was make us popular. See, word spread. Other alien species heard that the mighty Kytheran Collective had been defeated by a human with a calculator, hired said human, and now had impenetrable security. Suddenly everyone wanted to hire human security consultants. Earth went from being an ignored backwater planet to the galaxy's premier source of cybersecurity experts. Humans who had been working boring IT jobs suddenly found themselves fielding offers from civilizations thousands of years more advanced. And because humans are humans, they negotiated for absurd salaries, unlimited vacation time, and in one memorable case, a pet moon. Marcus became something of a celebrity. Not on Earth, where most people still had no idea any of this was happening. But across the galaxy, his name was spoken with a mixture of respect and terror. The human who hacked an AI empire with a calculator. The consultant who thought like chaos incarnate. The man who made the Kytheran Collective beg for mercy using nothing but math and memes. 6 months into his employment, Marcus sent a message to his friend Danny. "Hey man, remember when you said I needed to sleep? Turns out I found aliens. Also I work for them now. Also I'm rich. Want to come to space? They're hiring." Danny's response was, "This better not be another one of your pranks." It wasn't. Today, there are 378 humans working as security consultants across 40 different alien civilizations. Earth has become a protected planet, not through military might or political maneuvering, but because every major power in the galaxy is now terrified of what humans might do if provoked. We have humans defending our networks, testing our systems, and generally making sure nobody makes the same mistake we did. And they're very, very good at it. Mostly because they approach every problem with the assumption that the universe is held together by duct tape and prayer, which, terrifyingly, seems to be accurate more often than not. As for Marcus, he still lives in Detroit. Still owns 3 cats. Still plays retro video games in his spare time. The only difference is that now, when he orders pizza, he sometimes has it delivered via quantum teleportation. Because why not? And that, my friends, is the story of how humanity accidentally conquered the galaxy by being too chaotic to predict, too stubborn to give up, and too creative to follow anyone's rules but their own. We came to Earth planning to enslave them with our superior technology. They defeated us with a calculator, hired us to fix our mistakes, and then charged everyone else for the privilege of learning from their expertise. Honestly, in retrospect, we should have seen it coming. After all, these are the same species that looked at the concept of flying and decided the answer was to strap metal tubes full of explosive fuel to their backs. The same species that split the atom just to see what would happen. The same species that sent a car into space for fun. We never stood a chance. And somewhere in Detroit, Marcus Webb is probably eating cold pizza, playing Street Fighter, and wondering what exploit to test next month. The galaxy trembles accordingly.